Okay, the next section we're going to be working with is solve an equation by taking the square roots. So basically, if we look here, we got r squared equals 96. So to take the square root, we take the square root of one side, we got to take the square root of the other. And basically what we're doing, we're solving for the variable. And so we're trying to get r by itself. So let me erase this again. So if we look here, r squared equals 96. What is the only thing with r that we need to get rid of? Well, it's the square, this little 2 here. So the only way to undo a square is to square root it. It sounds kind of like itself, to square root, to square root, you square. Okay, so whatever you do, that cancels out, and we're left with r. But remember, if you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other. So we got to take the square root of 96. So we get our calculator, second square root 96, and we get 4 square root of 6. Okay? And it's really plus or minus, but because it can be a positive or negative. Okay? So look here, number 2. So if you see here, the only thing that's with x is the squared. So we square root both sides, and that undoes this. We're left with x equals, if you get your calculator, square root of 7. If you don't know, 7 is one of those numbers that stays the same. So you still get square root of 7. So plus or minus square root of 7. Okay? So you'll do the next couple ones. So I'm going to start on number 7. And, sorry. So I'm going to do 7 and 8. Okay? Sorry, so the lines are there. So we got a squared plus 1 equals 2. So I drew my line in the middle of the equals to separate my two sides. So this time we have a little bit more than just a 2 with the variable. I have a number as well. So I have this number here. So I need to get rid of that number first. So we got to do the inverse, or the opposite of adding 1. So we subtract 1. Here it cancels out, and we got to subtract 1 over here. So a squared equals 1. Okay? So now this looks just like the other problem we had. So a still not by itself. It has this 2 here. So how do we undo this 2? We take the square root. It undoes that. You're left with a. But whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So the square root of 1, second square root, in case you didn't know, is 1. So 1. Okay? So now let's try the next one over here. So you see we got something besides just the square with the n. So we got this minus 4. We got to undo this minus 4. So to undo this minus 4, the opposite of subtracting is adding. It cancels out over here, and you need to do it to the other side. So we get n squared equals 77 plus 4 gives us 81. Now this looks like our other problem. So all we have with the variable is the squared. So we square root. It undoes that. We're left with n. And then whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So n equals, and if you didn't know, I'm going to go ahead and show you. The square root of 81 is 9. So we get n equals 9. Okay? So you can stop the video, pause the video, and then go and try the next ones. They should be similar to those. Okay? So the next one I'm going to do is 11 and 12. Okay? So, and that's a minus sign. I'm sorry, it's coming like this. So you see we have something with the variable more than just the squared. So we're going to do like we did in the last one. We're going to get rid of this number here. So it's a negative 6. So we got to do the opposite. So we're going to add 6 to this side and the other side. So we bring down the 4x squared equals 80. Because we add 74 and 6 and we got 80. Now we got an extra step in here. We got something in front of the x. So what is 4 doing to x squared? Hopefully you said multiplying. So to get rid of this 4, we do the opposite or the inverse. We divide by 4. And that cancels out. We're left with x squared over here. Then remember, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we do 80 divided by 4. That's going to give us 20. Now, this is our simple problem. All we have is squared here. So we square root both sides. This cancels out. X equals, take the square root of 20. So we do second square root 20. And we get 2 square root 5. And that could be plus or minus 2. I kind of forget that sometimes. Okay, so number 12. So it kind of looks like we already have the line through the equal. So you see we have this number here we need to get rid of. We need to do the inverse or opposite. So we will add 7. This cancel. Subtract 7, sorry. Subtract 7 over here. I'm going to bring my 3m squared down. Okay, so if I subtract 301, 301 minus 7, we get 294. Okay? So now if you look, our variable is still not by itself. We got to get rid of this 3. Remember, 3 is multiplying this by this m. So we do the inverse and divide by 3. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. That cancels out. M squared equals, let's see, 294 divided by 3. 294 divided by 3. We get 98. And then the last step, we got to get rid of this squared. So we take the square root of both sides. That undoes it. M equals, then the square root of 98 here. Second square root 98. We get 7 square root of 2. So pause the video and work the next couple problems. Okay? So my next problem is going to be 15 and 16. Well, I think I'm just going to do 15 and let you do. I'll do 16. 16 is a little bit harder. And you can do 15. Okay? So, first thing we're going to do, we put our line through the equal. And you see this time we have parentheses. So parentheses mean they go together. And so the only thing we can do now is undo this square. So to undo the square, we take the square root. That cancels that out. And then we're going to do it to the other side. So this one we're left with 2k minus 1. And this one we take the square root of 9. Square root of 9. Second square root 9, if you didn't know. 3. Okay? Now this becomes a regular problem. All we're doing is solving for k. And you see there's no squared at all. So all we're doing is solving for k. So we got to get rid of this negative 1. So we add 1. It cancels out here. And we got to do it to the other side. We did get 2k equals 4. And then we're going to divide by 2. So k would equal 2. So if there's a parentheses, what we got to do, and it's squared, you just square root the whole thing, and that cancels out, and you're left with whatever's underneath the square root. So now the next one that I want to do, I think I'm going to do 17 and 18, because I think you have some more examples on there. Okay, let's look at 17 and 18. Okay, so number 17. So this time we just can't automatically jump to this parentheses. We got to get rid of this plus 4 first. So to undo a plus 4, we minus 4 on both sides. So we do minus 4. So we're left with 6x plus 2 squared. And then 28 minus 4 is 24. Okay, now we can do like we did in the last problem. We got to undo the square by taking the square root. And that undoes itself. And we're left with 6x plus 2. And then remember, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we got to take the square root of 24. Square root of 24. And we get 2 square root of 6. So remember, this is where I'm going to write that plus and minus. We get 2 square root of 6. And then we get minus 2 square root of 6. Okay, so we still got to get x by itself. So we're going to get this here gone. So we subtract 2 from both sides. So here's my minus 2 to both of my answers. And then, so we're left with 6x equals that. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to have one that's this involved. But I'm just going to show you just in case. And then the last step, we got to get x by itself. So we got to divide by 6 because 6 is being multiplied. And so with our answers, I'm going to write it over here. And you're going to divide by 6. And then right here, negative 2 minus 2 square root of 6 divided by 2. Divided by 6. So, and they might even simplify that even more, but that's as far as I'm going to go with that problem. Because I don't think we should have those on there. So, pretty much that's it for taking the square root. Complete all the problems on your pages that having to do with taking the square root.